use this.
Probably a good idea.
As Pastor Jim said, I graduated from Wesley Theological Seminary on May 7th with my Master's of Divinity. I will be commissioned as a provisional elder in the United Methodist Church in Ogden, Utah on June 10th and start at my two-point charge, Townsend United Methodist Church and East Helena United Methodist Church up in Montana starting on July 1st. And I just wanted to Pastor Jim asked me if I wanted a moment to speak, and I said, do I want a moment to get up in front of everybody and talk? But I probably should, because there's probably something I should say. I was in a conversation with one of my friends on Facebook the other day, and they're atheist agnostic, kind of still on their faith journey. And one of the things that they said that they felt a lot of people in our generation, kind of millennial generation, weren't engaged with any kind of faith community, because the way she phrased it was they didn't have access to religion because they hadn't been kind of raised in any kind of faith. And I thought that was a very interesting way that she put that access. And it made me think of something that my mom said about why my mom is a Taoist, and it's kind of strange for a Taoist to be taking her kid to a United Methodist Church. And she always said the reason she wanted me to come to St. Francis was because she felt that it would give me a toolbox for examining faith. And I think that's why I caught on that word access to religion, access to faith, because my experience at St. Francis gave me access to this toolbox of learning how to explore my faith, learning how to walk on my faith journey, whichever direction it took me. I don't know if anyone expected it would take me to becoming an United Methodist minister. But it was growing up at St. Francis was such an incredible part of my faith journey, and really has been of incredible value throughout my discernment process, throughout seminary, throughout the ordination process, having that toolbox, growing up in this beautiful community that's so involved in fostering people's faith, being a home for people of so many different faith journeys, being so active out in the community and out in the world. And I just wanted to thank everyone at St. Francis for the part that they play in my faith community.
Well, Daniel, I got to tell you that I knew you were going to be a United Methodist pastor, but I've only known you for the past 3 or 4 years. I had faith in that. How many had some doubts when he was younger? Some fears when he was younger? But how many have been sending your blessings his way for years? And as we send him off to Montana, can we bless him one last time? Can we do that together?
Josh.
Hallelujah. Believe me, the prayers of this congregation are definitely going to those congregations. One of our chief needs as creative beings is support. Unfortunately, this can be hard to come by. Ideally, we would be nurtured and encouraged first by our nuclear family and then by ever-widening circles of friends, teachers, well-wishers. As young artists, we need and want to be acknowledged for our attempts and efforts, as well as for our achievements and triumphs. Unfortunately, many artists never receive this critical early encouragement. As a result, they may never know they are artists at all. That comes from this book called The Artist's Way, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. It's a marvelous book that leads you through a set of different exercises to try to say, how do you discover creativity in the midst of life? And it was given to me when I was just out of seminary, right at the same space where Daniel was at. In fact, I still had a year of seminary to go, but I was appointed to my first space, and Buzz Stevens, who some of you know, he was the district superintendent in this area, he handed me this book and said, Jim, read this. Because after seminary, it's easy to be able to think that it's all about the mechanics you've been learning and about the intelligence you've been developing. And you need to know that it's also about the creativity. That at its core, pastoring is a creative art. But how many of you were in some profession that often taught you the mechanics of and forgot to nurture the artist in you? Even those professions that I've had that are less than artistic, bringing bread to grocery stores, buffing floors, I learned to have an artistic piece to them. And as I did some of those things that sounded less artistic, it was important that I took time not just to be the mechanical whatever, and to be the artist as well. So as I served beer at concerts, as I did that buffing of floors, could I discover the artist? See, we regularly, most of the time, forget to nurture the creativity in ourselves. And it's because we overlook life, because we're busy controlling life. We're pretty busy trying to take charge of what it is we're supposed to be. The necessities of life make it so that we do life, not live life. So we control life, not let life flow through us. And there's very real reasons why we should look at all those necessities of life. But there's also really good reasons why we shouldn't. About the time that Buddha sat under that Bodhi tree and the Jews were carried off into captivity, about that same time, a man lived in China named Confucius. He began speaking in ways that became developed into what we call the 100 schools of thought. And those 100 schools of thought and the other things that Confucius did developed protocol in China. The way of life, not just in the governmental levels, but in the everyday life. How is it that they treated one another? How is it that they acted towards one another? What did they do to speak and touch each other's lives? And those things, even though they've gone in and out of favor at times, continue to be practiced in many ways by every single person in that area. And not just in China, but in most of the Oriental areas of the world. And in Western civilization, American civilization, we don't have so fixed a protocol. But how many know there's a few rules out there that you're supposed to follow? Some of them are written down, but not all of them, right? How many typically pass on the right-hand side of the hallway? We follow those rules and we teach those rules to each other to help us make sense of and regulate our joint life. And like traffic signals on a roadway, they help us to not crash into each other as much. They help us to understand how to live in community, how to take care of each other and be taken care of by each other. They establish boundaries, they establish ground rules, they establish courtesies for our common life together. They give us a smoother life, but they sometimes make us forget it. Lao Tzu lived in the time of Confucius. He lived under Confucianism, and he had a single directive that he began to speak. And he spoke it in a lot of different ways, but essentially it was this: wander. Wander from all those things you've been taught so well. Wander from those walls that have been built around you, and move out into the verdant outside. And he meant that both figuratively and literally. Get outside of your cities, get outside of your buildings, get outside of the things that hold you inside, and go out and discover what is out there. Leave behind the purpose-driven life which you want and need, where you learn how to gallop by sitting, and go out into the world that is softer, less purposeful, slower, the world of wandering. Now, as good Americans, good Westerners, we should feel a little offended by that. Because we've taught each other really well how to not wander, how to take control, how to direct life, how to take charge and do things. And in our world, sometimes wandering was seen as a punishment. Because the right path was straight and narrow. It gets from here to there. It gets stuff done. It got us to the rewards we wanted, the ones we deserved. But Mark Nepo reminds us how easily we become enslaved to our schedules, to our goals, to all those things which get us somewhere, but which enslave us in the process. And Taoism, the religion that emerged from Lao Tzu, proclaims loudly, no, not that. The reward isn't someday, it is right now, in this place, this moment where we are. And will we discover it right now? Stephen Prothero, who writes the book we've been following, says, to lose yourself in the mountains or valleys is to return to the origin of all things, including your own nature. The central verb of the Tao Te Ching is return. Return from all those places where you've fixed your sights and done your stuff, and return back to something more natural, something more inherent within and not controlled by. To be fully human, says the Tao, is to dance with the Tao. And how many of you in life walk up to your partner, the Tao, and say, let me direct this dance. Let me tell us how to step and move and do. How many of you put yourself in your partner's arms and let that Tao direct? How many let it carry you? You see, we don't teach each other that very well, do we? We teach each other really well how to do the opposite. We want to say, let's go, big boy, I'll take charge of this. But can we let go? One of the concepts of Taoism is Wu Wei, which literally means no action. And just being in a space of the ground of becoming. And resting in that space where we allow us and the world around us to become. To carry us into wherever it leads. And how many aren't quite sure you like whatever? You want to have a little more direction, a little more definition. Stephen Prothero, talking about Taoism, says this: many of the key themes of the Tao Te Ching underscore the fact of change and the futility of resisting it. It glories in simplicity, spontaneity, flexibility, and freedom. It observes that rules and concepts get in the way of both individual happiness and social harmony. Get rid of goodness, and you will naturally be good. Should I say that again? Get rid of goodness, and you will naturally be good. I know you understand that song about yourself, but that's true about the person beside you too. The problem is lifelessness, which is brought on by social customs so prized by Confucians. The solution is a life well lived, which is to say health, longevity, and perhaps even bodily immortality. But none of this is possible without freedom from the life-sapping social conventions. You see, when we are trying to direct each other so much, we sometimes forget that they need to discover and be in a space of discovery. That we need to, instead of knowing what to do, we need to be discovering what life is calling out of us. We need to wander where life takes us rather than try to define how life should take us. So let me talk about a certain particular subset of wanderers, of which two of the people who've spoken to you today are ones. Well, three people. Sheena, Daniel, Dean, all part of a generation that we say has wandered away from church. Right? Those children of ours who are looking at the structure we've built, the things we've placed and said, this is how religion, God, life works. And they've wandered saying, maybe there's some other place where the divine can be found. Maybe there's some other place where meaning can be defined. Maybe there's some other space. And are we listening to those voices? We easily can look at those that are outside of our buildings, outside of our thought patterns, and think, oh, they don't have a spirituality that I think they do. Are we hearing what their wandering can teach us? Are we letting them speak into us and change us? Or are we just shouting at them, wanting to change them? Maybe their wandering is the more that we are looking for. Maybe it is what we should become. Maybe it is the definition of the future of the church. St. Confucianism, that parent organization, sometimes says this: being human is not a birthright, but an accomplishment. I mean, you have kind of heard that in your life from somebody. But Taoism says more like this: we are born human, and we are hammered out of our humanity by the ways we teach each other. Do we allow each person to be fully human and discover in every moment how that humanity plays out? One of the prophets of this generation, J.R.R. Tolkien, said it this way: not all who wander are lost. They are discovering amazing things that maybe we should learn. But in our efforts to try to define goodness, we sometimes leave people on the outside. Get rid of goodness, and you will naturally be good. See, if we define so much how to do it, what we take out of the equation is the trust that people will do it. And sometimes we put up so many road signs, so many ways of acting and being, that we don't allow people to discover how it is that the divine is speaking right through them. The rules get in the way of them learning and growing, of us becoming what it is that God is doing. See, it's easy for us to blind each other with our rules, but we free each other with our trust. See, we do a lot of battling against things. We tell each other this is wrong or that's wrong or whatever it happens to be, this is the way we do it. And we do that because of all we've learned in the past. But how is it that we allow each person to define the path ahead? The first section of the Tao Te Ching, the very first piece, says this: the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal but Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the origin of heaven and earth, while naming is the origin of the myriad things. Every time you think you have the answer, you're missing the Tao. Every time you have the only path, you're missing part of the way to follow. And if you're so busy naming your Tao, you're missing what it is that somebody else is hearing. What is it that that other person is speaking and can teach you? What is it that that situation that you're trying to avoid might draw out of you? How is it that life is trying to say, I've got another teaching for you? How is it that you're saying, yeah, I've had enough teaching. Learned enough already. Don't teach me anymore. But everything, says Aunt Dorothy, everything and everyone can be a teaching if we open ourselves up to it. If we already know, we don't let the Tao draw us forward. We don't let God teach us something more, especially if we define, I don't want to listen to that person. I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to let that teach me. And maybe that's exactly what we need. David Meredith is a pastor in West Ohio. He has been very active in the reconciling movement in the United Methodist Church. He is an openly gay man, and this week his office was broken into and two things were stolen: his diploma and his ordination certificate. As if to say, you don't deserve. And I want to fight against that, and I probably will. But at the same time, if I'm fighting against only, am I allowing that to draw me forward, or am I defining the pathway forward? How is it that I let this draw us forward some way? Because you see, the stealing of those things is a defining of, I'm going to control it. But my response to it can be a controlling action, or it can lead me towards something better. How I react to and what I do in this moment can say, am I following the divine or am I controlling the divine? Every moment has that potential. And the great teaching of the Tao is to be open, to be ready, to let life teach us. If the problem is lifelessness, then for Taoists, the solution is flourishing. In this moment, whatever the moment is, easy or the most difficult, whether it's the one you would have chosen or the last thing you would want on your agenda, whatever this moment is, will it be a space where you can flourish? Where you can grow, where here you can somehow blossom some bit of life. Like Yoruba, flourishing is the grand value of Taoism. No matter where you start, here does life come out. Does it become the ground of your becoming something new, something different? Something wondrous for the world. Not what you've been taught to be about, but what this moment and this person draws out of you. Today is Mother's Day, you might have noticed. And mothers, not just the ones who gave us birth, but all those other people who mothered us through life, who gave us something, we're always about saying, can I help you flourish in some way or another? Can I teach you something that you haven't seen? Can I help you to be and become something you've never been before? And don't get me wrong, I know mothers are often about the exigencies of life, the necessities, the stuff that has to be done, the dinner that has to be cooked, or the floor that needs to be cleaned, or whatever else needs to be done. That's part of what mothers do. But I think the best of what mothering does is expressed to me by this poem, little teeny poem. It says, cooking and cleaning can wait till tomorrow. For children grow up, we learn to our sorrow. So wipe away cobwebs and dust, go to sleep. I'm cuddling my baby, and babies don't keep. You see, mothers at their best remember to set aside all the stuff of life, all the things that need to be done, and they sit in that space, in that moment with that person and say, I choose relationship right now. I choose to let this moment and our relationship define us, not all that other stuff. And not all mothers do that every time. You do, I know. But when we're best, that's what we do, isn't it? The highest value in Taoism is nurturing life. In ourselves and in the people around us, the ones we like and get along with easily, and the other ones. Nurturing life in this moment, whether it's the simplest moment, the one we would have chosen, or the most challenging one, the one we would have hidden from if we could have. But in this moment, can life emerge? Absolutely. But we sometimes have to nourish it in ourselves and each other. So as you wander, it's not just about going wherever. It's about seeing how life is there and about letting that life affect you in all its myriad and important forms. To give space and value to that life, both around you and within you. Are you busy with the tasks of life, or are you in relationship to life? Are you relating to the very thing you're passing through? I was given a movie not long ago called The Ship. It was a great film. But it had a song in there that I love, by a man named Ethan Lipton. And it asked this question, it gave this imperative. It says, don't go with your song inside you. Sing the song that's there. And listen to the songs being sung around you. You see, when we get caught up in the stuff of life, we're doing work. And that's important. That Confucian, here's the right way to work. But Taoism says something different. How will you do the art of life? And see, if you're putting cogs in a factory, you're putting cogs on something in a factory, I can tell you how to do it right or wrong. But if you're painting a picture, it becomes much harder for me to define what you should do next. And so I have a hard time figuring out how to end this. How do you tell people, here's what you have to do, or here's what you have to be? And at 7:45 we do communion. I wish I could do communion right now, because I think that Jesus is a Taoist in this moment. And we sometimes turn it into a confusion and say, here's the right way to do it. Take a little bit of bread and dip it into the juice. Instead, I think Jesus was sitting there going, the next few days don't look good for me. But come on and be with me right now. Come here and sit with me. Have a chunk of bread. eat together with me. Have some wine. Let's sit and talk together. Let's share together. Let's be in this moment together. And let's celebrate what will happen. Amen?
Amen.